exceptions. What it mean by exception? Generally, it's a nothing but an error. If any error occurs when you are running a process, so how to handle that? That is nothing but exception handling here. Exception handling. So for to exception handling, we have some different shapes here to work with the exception handling. One is recover, and another one is resume, another one is exception block. All these four shapes we will use to work with exception handling. Okay, if any error occurs, what we have to do? For example, here recover. So this recover, it will catch error. It will catch error in your process throughout the process, complete process. If any stage error occurs, it is going to catch. In any stage, if any error occurs, recover will catch, and it is going to ignore also. It will ignore that error. Okay, it will catch and it will ignore. After that, from where it has to continue, from which stage it has to continue, we are going to use resume shape. We will use resume shape to tell the process you need to continue from here, continue from this stage. We will use resume. And one more thing, recover, automatically it will catch error, so no need of input link, no need to link this recover stage from any other stage, not required automatically. So it will catch error if error occurs in any of your stage. That's why we'll call this as a recover stage. We will call this as magnet shape also. Don't get confused. So sometimes in interviews, if they ask what is magnet shape, okay, so there is nothing but a recover. So it will catch error automatically without any link. That's why we'll call it as a magnet shape. Okay, resume will continue. It will tell you from where it has to continue, and when it is coming to the exception. Okay, before discussing the exception, okay, here it will catch and it will ignore the error. After that, it will resume. But after that, we need to understand what was the reason of the failure. What was the reason of the failure? Why it has been went to the recover, right? So if you want to understand reason of the failure, we have calculation shape. In calculation shape, so we have some inbuilt exceptions. Inbuilt exceptions. Those are these inbuilt exceptions are exception type, exception type, exception stage, and exception details. These are the inbuilt exceptions. If you give exception type, it will show you the type of the exception. And if you give exception stage, which stage that exception occur, it will show you. Is it in a calculation stage, is it in a decision stage, or is it in loop, or whatever it may be. And exception details, it will give you error details. Error details, all these are the inbuilt. But we have another shape called exception. Exception, why we are going to use this? All these are inbuilt exceptions. So for example, if you want to give any user defined messages, if anything is not working, for example, if you observe, when you are logging to any portal, sometimes if the portal is not working, you will get a message like please try after some time, sorry for inconvenience. Or you will get a message like we are under construction, please try after 1 hour, right? All these are user defined messages. User defined messages. If you want to give any user defined messages, for example, if application is not launching, so we should not throw error. It has to display message to the user that so your application is not launching. There is some issue with the application. If you want to do like, if you want to give the details like that, then we have to use exception. Exception to work with any user defined messages. We can give any message. So to display, if it is not working, we can give this message. If the application is launching, not launching, you can give this message. Application is not launching, or whatever it may be. It will be like that. And so, what is the purpose of block? Block we are going to use to give the instruction to that particular recover stage. It has to work only for this specific stage. We are giving it is a instructions to process or instructions to recover where it has to work, where it has to capture error. So we can say that it's an instruction to the recover shape where in or which stage it has to capture error. We can able to create n number of blocks and n number of recover and resume shapes in a process. There is no limit. But when you are creating n number of recover and resumes, each and every recover we need to tell that where it has to work, for which stage it has to work. It will be like that. Now we'll see so how to work with a recover and then resume. Come to Prism, open this, click create a process, exception, next, finish, double click on the exception. Okay. Now use some calculation here. Again use some calculation here. In this particular calculation we will give some error 23 plus 9, whatever it may be. Is it invalid, right? Invalid, and store it in result. First calculation is invalid, second one it is valid. This one is valid. Okay, click OK. Now one is invalid, one is valid. Then what we have to do? Give the link now. Okay, now reset. Now we have error, right? See this? We have error here. Now if error occurs when you are running a process, what is going to be, what it will happen? It will throw error and it will stop the process. It will throw error, that is a stop the process, that is a so general working, how it is going to work. So here when it is coming to click OK, now we will use, instead of stopping here in this particular stage, it has to continue to the next stage. Then we have to use recover to catch error. It will catch and it will ignore error. After that, from where it has to continue. So resume. Resume is link from recover to here. But recover will not accept any input link. See this? I am trying to give the link. Is it accepting? No. because recover no need to give any input link. That's why we'll call it as a magnet shape. Now after this, resume. From where it has to go? It has to go to the next stage. Now run. It continued process. Then start. Now, okay. So it captured that error and ignored the error. After that, it continued the process. But we need to see what is the reason of the failure. What was the reason of the exception? This one. Then we have to use calculation. Give the link. In calculation we have so inbuilt exception details, inbuilt exception things. Now observe this. Double click. See this? What it says? Exception. See this? Exception details, exception stage, exception type. If you want, which one you want, you can use that particular thing. We'll give that message. Click on this. Now click OK. Pointer. Now run this. Now observe. It will show you. See this? It is showing the details of the error. So we have one exception details here. That's why it is showing. So what is the details of that error here? But I don't want to capture that details. I want to capture which stage the error has occurred. Then, so just give the stage name. It will give you the stage name here. That's it. And it will not give you the details. Observe this. Yes. Right. It is given the stage name. Okay. Now, so I want to see the type of the error. So if error occurs, any error, so it will show you internal. So for example, so this is a message, so this invalid expression. So now double click exception stage, go to exception type, click OK. This one and run. Observe. It will show you type of the exception. Okay. And one more thing, remember when you are implementing this calculation for the exception details or exception type or exception stage, must and should, it has to be in between recover and resume. Then only it will catch those errors. Otherwise, if it comes to the resume, so it is ignoring completely, and then so you will not get that particular exception. For example, so my intention is, so this again I will use calculation here. I'm trying to give you a link from here to here. I'm trying to use exception details into something, capture into something. Okay. Now observe this, what is happening. See this? Because this is again it's a error, that's why it is catching again recover, because we can't able to use this exception error here in the calculation flow process. If you observe, this. So after that you come to the resume. See this? Calculation flow process error, failure to evaluate exception details, because it has to be implemented after the recover and resume, so it will not work. It has to be in between recover and resume only, then only we can able to see the exception details. Okay, now give this, delete this one, don't require. give this from resume to calculation. Okay. Now assume that again in this stage also we have error. Now we have error here also. Then what will happen? Here we have error. It will catch. It will show you the details. Fine. Again it will come to the resume. Here again we have error. Then again it will catch resume and it will go to the recover, because any error if it occurs in any of your stage, recover will catch that. Remember, any error it occurs on any of your stage, the recover is going to catch that error. Now we have error in the both the shapes. Just run. Okay. Again and again it is going to the recover, because in calculation 2 also we have error. Okay. Now observe how to overcome this. Again use resume and recover and resume. Give the link. We created another recover and resume, but is it capturing another? Is it going to another recover? No, because remember, whichever the recover you are going to create first, always all errors it will try to catch that first recover which you created. Always it will try to catch error. So first recover which you have created, that one. So for example, reset. Again I am trying to run. Here we have another one, right? So we'll try to see this first error, it will catch. Here second error. So if you want to catch here, it has to catch here. This error has to catch here, then only it will continue, right? But observe. So every time first error it will catch the first recover only. Second error also it will catch the first recover only. It will not go into the second recover, because so the property of the recovery is always it will catch error where which stage it occurs. Always first recover it will accept. Now if you want to give this to the second recover, observe this. I'm giving a block like this. Okay. Now it's ended, right? The intention of the block here is this recover has to work only for this particular stage, only for this specific thing, particular stage. That is the intention behind using block. Okay, you can use n number of recover and resumes, n number of blocks in a process. There is no limit. N number of recover and resumes, n number of blocks according to your requirement. Okay, here we are giving some user defined messages, right? Okay, inbuilt messages, inbuilt exception details, like exception details, exception type, exception stage. But what about user defined messages? I want to give some user defined message. Then how to do that? Okay, so now just let me save this. We'll create a new process. Close it. Again, create a process. Exception. Double click. If you want to work with any user defined messages, what we have to use? We have to use exception. Exception, remember, always it will allow only one input link. It will not allow output link. Exception will allow input link. It will not allow output link. Exception. User defined message at the same time. It will not allow try to implement exception here. Here we didn't given anything inside the calculation, it means it's nothing but error. Okay, now try to implement exception. Observe this. I'm trying to give this exception here, right? It will move. See this, from exception I am trying to give link. It is not at all allowing. Again, if I try to give this link, it will go on, right? Then in which situation we are going to use a exception? For example, if you have an error in this calculation, it will not catch. Exception will not catch. Exception is only for to give some user defined messages. Exception is nothing but a error also, but it will work for only for user defined messages, not like a recover and resume. You can give some messages when the exception comes. For example, exception, it is not allowing output link. Then how to continue the process? Always where you have two links. Remember, it is in a decision. It will be in a decision, right? Now observe this. We can give like this. Then it will display exception here. If it is not displaying an exception, it will go to the next shape. So for example, again if I implement calculation here, it will go from here to here and implement the calculation. Okay, now exception. For example, here I will give the condition like no condition 23 greater than 90. Is this a true? No, right? Then it will come to this. Then so it will stop. It will display the message. Why it came to the exception? It will display some message. Here I will remove this. Not required. Give the link. Start to decision, decision to exception, exception to calculation. Now observe, in a decision we have a condition. It's a false statement. If it is false statement, then it will go to here, and if it is true statement, then it will come to here. Okay, fine. When it is coming here, it has to throw something like, so the value is not valid or whatever it may be, right? Value is not valid or whatever. If you want to display that, observe this. We have double click on exception. What you can able to see, exception type and exception details. You can able to see that exception type and exception data. You can give here, you can give any exception according to your requirement. For example, exception, just I have given it as an exception, and then exception details. Details is, so this is invalid value for to continue process. To continue process. These are exception details I have given. Now click OK. Now just reset and then run. See this? What it says? It is saying that exception details invalid value to continue the process. Remember blindly one thing, whenever you are using launch, when you are launching any application, we have to use a wait, right? Blindly we have to use a wait. The same way we have to use, remember now onwards, remember we have to use this exception also. Exception. Why we need to use this? For example, okay, you given a wait for 20 seconds, and within that, so we have some other dynamic wait also. Assume that if it works within the 20 minutes, then it will work properly. Okay, then what happens if it is not launched? within that time period, or within that 20 seconds, or within that 10 seconds, or within that 2 seconds, whatever it may be, then what is going to be happen? It will terminate, right? It will terminate because application is not launched. In that case, instead of terminating, we are going to display the message like the timeout. So within this time, your application is not launching within 20 seconds. Please try after some time. We can give some message. That's why, so after launch, remember you have to use a wait. So for the timeout, you have to use a exception. Okay. So now remember this. This is very important. We'll see the exception. We can a exception, right? So now this exception details again, if you want to store it somewhere, so you can use some calculation. So recover resume, and then so if you use recover and exception is nothing but error, right? If you want to see that, also this recover resume, in between we have to use calculation. Give that link from resume, continue the process to the calculation tool. We will give some valid thing 23, store it in value. Okay. Now double click on this. Now whatever the exception details you have given there, that exception details it will show you in a message here. If you want to store, then we can use like this. Okay. Now exception occurs, it will catch, recover, and it will come to the calculation. It will display the message, and it will go to the resume, and it will continue the process. Now set, try to run. See this exception is nothing but error. That's why it is catching in recover. And then observe the details here. Message. What it says? Invalid value to continue the process. Right? This is the exception details we have given. Okay. So now we saw that how to work with a exception. Now so we have another concept called exception bubbling. Exception bubbling or page exceptions. Exception bubbling or exception pages. Okay, what it means by that? For example, so when you are working with multiple pages or object or business objects, and then so process studio, object studio, and process studio. Okay, so it will work in the for both the things, for multiple pages and at the same time so process studio as well as in object studio. What it means by that exactly? Assume that we have a main page. We have main page. After that, you are going to create page 1. After that, we are going to create page 2. After we have a page 3. Continuous pages we have. Now, in the page 1, we have error. Page 2, we have error. Page 3, again we have error. Okay, so each and every pages we have a error. Then if you want to recover, if you want to use recover and resume, then what we have to do? Each and every page you need to create recover and resume, right? Instead of that, what we can able to do is, instead of creating recover and resume in all your sub pages, you can create recover and resume in only in main page. If you create in a main page recover and resume, it will catch errors in all your sub pages. In any page, if you have error, it will catch. The same way, when you are using that in a object studio, if you have any error in your object studio, it is going to catch that error in your process studio. Process studio. You created something in object studio, but so you have an error in object studio. You need to catch that in your process studio. Then we can able to use recover and resume in a process studio. No need to use the recover and resume in object studio. It will catch directly, because in a process you are running that object. For example, when you are launching, so you will create a launch in a object studio, and then in a process studio you are using that launch. You can, if you have any errors in a launch, you can call that, you can use that error in your process studio. It will catch, and then what it has to do, you can able to decide, do you need to catch or do you need to continue, what it will be like that. Now if you observe here, so how to implement this, come to this one, we will create a new one, close it, save changes, come to process, we will create another process, exception body. Now next, finish, double click. Now in this we have main page, let it be. Okay. We'll create multiple pages, page 1, page 2 and page 3. Page 1, okay, again page 2, okay, again page 3. We have 3 pages. Okay. In page 2 we have a error. Just use calculation and don't give anything. It means nothing but error, because we are not defining anything in a calculation. In a page 1, again use your calculation, give the link, and now if you want to run this, then what we have to do, we need to create a references for this page 1, page 2, page 3 in your main page. Now use that reference page, create a page, existing page, page 1, finish, give the link. Again we need to create a reference for page 2 and page 3 also. Create a reference for page 2. After that we need to create a reference for page 3. So we have all 3 pages references we have here. Now also page 1, page 2, page 3, after this one, this set. Go to the pointer, go to page 1, after that page 2, implement the page 2, after that come here, implement the page 3. Now we have error in page 1, right? If you run this like this, it will go to the page 1, it will throw error and it will stop. It will not continue, right? So we don't want to stop here. Then come to the page 1, main page. Instead of creating recover and resume, you can create recover and resume and then you can resume to the end. Then it will work properly. But again, the same way you need to create the same recover and resume in your page 2 also, and then we have to continue, right? Instead of that, what we can able to do is, we can able to create recover and resume in your main page. From here, recover and resume. Now give the link. If you have any error in page 1, go to the page 2. Okay. Now reset, again run. Also in a page 1 we have error, it catched the recover. Again it went to the page 2. Again page 2 we have error, it will going to catch again same recover, because that recover has created first. How to overcome this? Again use, we'll stop this, come to this, recover, resume, give this link, give this link. Now we created another recover and resume, but every time the error will try to catch only first recover, right? So how to handle this? We have an option called block, right? Use a block here. See this? This recover has to work for this specific stage. That's the meaning of a block. Now if you run, if you have any error in page 2, it will catch this and it will come and then it will run the page 3 and then it will continue the process. Now reset, run. Observe this. We have error in page 2, so it finished. Now see this, in a page 1 we have error, it captured recover 1. In page 2 again we have error, we given a block to capture this error in a recover 2. After that recover 2 we have given that it has to resume in page 3, it has to go to page 3. Now page 3 has run and then it has been completed, ended, right? So this is the concept of recover and so resume. So whenever, so based on your business scenarios, based on your requirement, validation rules, we are going to use these exceptions. This is nothing but a so exception handling also. Here at least you are going to get so 1 or 2 questions in interview. What is recover and then what is resume? Why you are going to use a block? How many recover and resumes you can able to use it? And then for example, they will ask like this. We have a process. We have 2 recover and resumes. 2 recovers, 2 resumes. When I am running, so which recover and resume it is going to catch the error? So the answer is whichever you created first, that recover it will catch. For that resume, it will go. If you want to work with some other recover and resume, so you have to give block. If you give the block, it will be the instruction to that particular process. In this particular stage, if any error occurs, it has to capture this particular recover. That's nothing but a block. Okay, so is it clear now? So how to work with a so recover and resume, and then exception, user defined exceptions. How to give user defined exceptions? How to give so inbuilt exceptions? User defined exceptions will only we have to go for exception. Exception will not allow output link, right? It will not allow output link. Just it will we will use to display some messages. Okay. So wherever you are using launch, remember after that launch we need to use a wait. After that wait, for timeout you have to use a exception. You have to give some user defined message. That's why we are going to use exception. So any questions in this class? So anyone? Gopal Krishna, Sudhakar.
Nothing from you, bro.
Okay. So just practice the things.
Let me practice some.
Just practice.
Yeah.
Only you can so able to understand the things. Okay. So how the things is going on.
So can you